UW360 is proudly supported by BECU, a not-for-profit member-owned credit union. Pacific Office Automation, copy, print, workflow, and IT. Problem solved.
Hi everyone, I'm Carolyn Douglas. Welcome to UW360 and welcome to Suzzallo Library, one of the most beautiful buildings on campus. In this episode, we'll also take a closer look at another well-loved campus site, the Cherry Blossoms on the Liberal Arts Quad. Have you ever wondered how living or working next to a busy highway might affect your health? We'll show you what UW researchers are learning about diesel exhaust. We'll also show you a website where you can actually watch interviews from participants on the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda. And we'll meet the star power behind this year's UW softball team. First, though, we meet a surgical robot named Raven.
This biorobotics laboratory on the University of Washington campus is like most science labs. It's cluttered and a little messy. But this mayhem of inventiveness is the birthplace of a robot that might change the face of surgery. It goes by the name of Raven.
We started developing this technology in about 2001, 2002, and we got a grant from the Army to develop a prototype for a surgical robot you could deploy in the field and take care of combat casualties.
Now, the use of robotics for surgery is not especially new. Commercial surgical robots are in common use, but the UW team realized Raven had advantages to researchers over commercially available models.
The commercial device is an excellent robot, but it's got two problems from a researcher's point of view. One is that it's a closed software system, so you can't write code for it. And the second one is it costs $1.8 million, and so even if you could write the code, you have to raise that money.
On top of each motor, there's a sensor here.
So the National Science Foundation funded us to build 7 systems that can be put into labs at 7 universities that are all already doing research on advanced surgical robotics.
The second generation Raven, Raven 2, is now in the hands of 7 research universities. They will all collaborate and exchange information to advance surgical robotics.
It's a pretty complex system. There's a lot to keep track of.
A compact combination of computer code, motors, gears, and custom electronics, Raven 2 is the child of an interdisciplinary team, which includes a number of surgeons.
And that's very, very critical. You know, we engineers can kind of guess what surgeons need, but guessing doesn't work at all.
Well done.
Dr. Tom Linvey is one of the surgeons working with the Raven team. He regularly uses robotics to perform surgeries inside the body cavity using minimally invasive incisions.
Robotic surgery is fairly convincingly demonstrated that it has a role in intracavity surgery. And because of the precision and the instrumentation, I believe that we're eventually going to use robotic surgery for open surgery.
Raven 2 will help researchers push the frontiers of robotic surgery in ways that boggle the mind. Berkeley is using Raven 2 to develop a surgical robot that will learn what a surgeon is doing and try to copy it. Harvard is working on a robot that will track the surface of a beating heart.
The visual system will sort of subtract off the heartbeat motion. So the surgeon is operating on the surgeon on what appears to be a fixed heart, but it's actually beating. And that's potentially really huge because it means the patient doesn't have to go on the heart-lung machine during heart surgery.
Whether it's improvements in telesurgery, where a surgeon in one city can operate on a patient in another city, or a robot that closes an incision with precisely knotted sutures, the researchers using Raven 2 hope to fast-track advances through collaboration and a healthy dose of competition.
We're all sharing, we're all collaborating, and also competing. And so who's going to be the first with that new feature? I think competition is going to give us a little kick and make everything go faster, in addition to the collaboration. So there are many, many wheels that won't have to be reinvented.
For more information about Raven or about any of the stories in this program, you'll find a link on our website, uwtv.org/UW360. Stay with us. We'll be right back with this year's Husky softball team as UW360 continues. Welcome back, everyone. It's finally spring, which means welcome to softball season. And welcome back to 4 standout seniors who've been teammates since their freshman year.
The 2009 National Championship goes to the Dogs. The Washington Huskies win their first NCAA title.
It is the most thrilling moment for a college athlete. An emotional celebration creating memories to last a lifetime. In June 2009, the spirited Huskies captured their first NCAA softball crown. It was a skilled veteran team that also included 4 young freshmen.
It was a really long time ago, but at the same time, it kind of feels like it was yesterday.
Those freshmen are now seniors, and Kimmy Pullman, Jenna Clifton, Taylor Smith, and Nikki Williams formed the foundation for Coach Heather Tarr's 2012 squad.
The strength of our team is in our leadership, and it's not just in the 4 seniors that come from that 2009 National Championship, but it also comes from the younger players because they're great leaders.
Hey, kid, you go, Greg. Oh, you, huh? Here you go.
I think from our freshman year, we learned a lot from Charters and Danielle and those girls and how to work hard and really achieve a goal. And I think we're doing a good job of giving it back to the freshmen.
Our level of success ever since we won the national championship is to win a national championship. So anything less than that is not necessarily our goal, but in certain terms, you have to understand where your team is at, what they're able to accomplish.
What they've accomplished in 2012 is another national ranking and a growing confidence they'll need if they hope to return to the College Softball World Series.
Success is hard to find in the game of softball, so it's just a matter of, learning and becoming better each and every day that you step out on the field.
At this point in the season, we've done pretty well. I think we've beat the teams that we think we should beat, and we could have lost a couple games here and there, but we found ways to win them.
And for Nikki, Taylor, Kimmy, and Jenna, the end of their time to wear Husky purple is fast approaching.
It's my senior season. I mean, I want to go out with a bang. I think all the seniors would say that.
Hey, let's have a good day today, huh?
And as their college careers are winding down, these seniors are starting to think about what's next.
Really, really like to be a wedding planner. I love chaos. I love when things don't work out because I have to find a way to change it really quickly. So that's my longer term goal.
I would love to be a broadcaster. I think that'd be awesome. To play in front of their home fans and see what they... No, I don't like that. Does my hands look okay? They come home this week to try and continue their winning streak. Does that sound okay? So nervous. Does my hair look okay? The Husky women's softball team has gotten off to an amazing start this season, going 19-1. They come home this weekend to try and continue their winning streak. That sounded better? Oh, God.
You can find a link to the softball team stats and game schedules and other Husky sports on our website, uwtv.org/UW360. And coming up next, voices from the Rwanda Tribunal as UW360 continues. Welcome back to UW360 and to Suzzallo Library. When construction began here back in 1923, UW President Henry Suzzallo envisioned this library as the soul of the university, a place to preserve and share information. And preserving and sharing information is also at the heart of our next story. It's about a website showing interviews with people who served on a war crimes tribunal.
These are the victims of genocide. Some of the 800,000 Rwandan people who, within a mere 100 days in 1994, were massacred by their neighbors and fellow countrymen. To end the cyclic violence, the international community responded with a path toward justice, the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda.
The mere fact, in my opinion, that this tribunal exists is already a lot of progress.
People were looking up to the law to find a solution, to find justice, instead of turning to retribution and to revenge.
The tribunal members did groundbreaking work in the development of legal systems for the prosecution of killers and, for the first time, rapists as war criminals.
Rape will be treated as a serious crime that will be prosecuted by the international community.
So the way this is set up.
And now the tribunal's thoughts and insights about systems for justice and healing have a living voice due to a project through the University of Washington Information School.
I think a lot of people are interested in, for the very individuals who are actually making this system, you know, what are they thinking about? What are the questions they have? What are they proud of? What were the interesting challenges they had? How did they work through those challenges?
Okay.
So we're back to the home page.
Batya Friedman and her team designed and launched a website called Voices from the Rwanda Tribunal.
The most difficult point for me as lead counsel.
For the project, tribunal personnel were interviewed. Those interviews were posted online, unedited, and available to anyone for download and reuse, as we've done for this story.
A critical part in any justice system is closing that loop with the people who are affected. So the information systems that play that role of taking the results of a justice system and communicating them back to the people who are affected, or to, in this case, the world at large, are an integral part of what it means to have a justice system. But all these bits get put out there, and all of these IP addresses, and you know, we're trying to balance that against a place where it will be safe for people to come.
The website's design is unique on several levels. First, all visitors are anonymous to prevent any possible reprisals, and aspects of the site are crowd-curated. Visitors can suggest keywords or concepts. They can suggest a shorter interview clip be made available for easy access. The idea is that the site will change and flex over a span of years to provide healing across generations.
We have a working hypothesis that for this generational healing to happen, the actual design of the information system needs to change in response to the different generations. At the same time that we're building a real system that we really do hope will contribute in some positive ways, both in Rwanda and elsewhere.
Life is something which always comes back, because even when I go back to Rwanda now, you see people also smiling, living almost a normal life.
To access Voices from the Rwanda Tribunal, you'll find a link on our website, uwtv.org/uw360. And stay tuned to find out how living near a busy highway may affect your health. In every big city, people live or work in heavy industrial areas. Now, researchers at the University of Washington School of Public Health are studying what that does to our bodies.
Welcome to a community meeting in Seattle with an unusual theme, Diesel 101. The invited guests are residents of South Park and Georgetown. Wedged between I-5 and Highway 99, in the middle of industrialized transfer and transportation hubs, these areas are known to have higher than average concentrations of air pollution from diesel exhaust. The community meeting is an invitation to help residents do something about that.
I'd like to welcome you all to the community kickoff meeting for our project entitled Diesel Exhaust Exposure in the Duwamish Study.
Diesel exhaust exposure in the Duwamish Study, or DEEDS, is an air monitoring research project from the University of Washington School of Public Health. DEEDS is unique because community concerns will guide the strategies researchers use as they measure air quality. It's a study that puts the public in public health.
So we believe that if the community works with us to let us know exactly where and when to measure diesel exhaust, that the results will be more meaningful. This is important because we really believe that people will be able to use the results to make changes.
In many ways, the DEEDS project exemplifies how the science of public health research can support the development of environmental regulations. Much of that research often happens outside of the public eye, and in fact, this very public emphasis on diesel exhaust comes after years of painstaking study to understand how diesel exhaust affects the human body.
Diesel exhaust represents a mixture of gases and particles, many of which have been documented in sort of the test tube, if you will, to be associated with biological effects. So we know that it does something.
There's growing concern that diesel exhaust in particular is associated with lung cancer within people who are occupationally exposed to the highest levels over a long period of time.
We also have this emerging research database that shows that people who live near major roadways seem to have special risk of cardiovascular health effects.
And it is that connection between highways and cardiovascular health that caught the interest of researchers at the University of Washington. The connection surfaced during a population study called MESA, Multi-Ethnic Study of Atherosclerosis. People living near major highways showed early signs of eventual heart failure. But what was the cause? Was it due to noise, stress from constant traffic, or was it, as UW researchers suspected, something in the air?
So we've launched campaigns to understand air pollution concentration in all of the communities where the MESA participants live.
Researchers used air sampling devices similar to those that will likely be used for the DEEDS project. They extensively monitored air quality as study subjects went about their daily business. And this gave researchers accurate data about air pollution exposure. And when they tied that information back to the vascular health of the MESA participants, they noticed something about those people exposed to higher levels of pollution.
It appears that exposures to air pollution actually cause the little tiny vessels, the microvascular we call them, the arterioles, to get smaller in response to air pollution.
So if you could record blood pressure for me.
Concurrent with the MESA population study, UW investigators zeroed in on diesel exhaust and began to look more closely at cause and effect in experiments that continue even today. Using a room with controlled airflow, test subjects are exposed to either filtered air or air mixed with levels of diesel exhaust typical to real-life exposures.
In these settings, we're looking to see if the exposure to diesel exhaust actually has an effect that can be observed in a person on the vascular system.
I can see your brachial artery. This is your...
Before, during, and after the test, researchers monitor heart and blood vessel functions. When subjects are exposed to diesel exhaust, some reactions are immediate. For instance, blood pressure rises and stays elevated for a full day after exposure ends, and blood vessels constrict. Given long-term exposure, scientists think they have the smoking gun.
It's really a web of interrelated biological processes, and over time you end up with a vascular system that's more at risk for heart attack and stroke.
Older adults and the elderly are also more susceptible to the effects of air pollution.
And that brings the University of Washington School of Public Health Investigations back to the DEEDS project in South Park and Georgetown. Even with environmental regulations, certain communities still face higher risks. But bolstered by public health research, their citizens can give policymakers science-based reasons to make changes.
And so we believe that by informing people, we can help arm them to make decisions to have improved air quality.
Stay tuned for a breath of fresh air and a treasured sign of spring on the UW campus. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Our final story today takes us to the Quad, the liberal arts quadrangle on campus, for a look at a springtime tradition in full bloom, our beloved cherry blossoms.
Nothing signals springtime on the University of Washington campus quite like this. The annual blooming of the cherry trees in the Quad.
to say it's the most enchanting experience I think I've ever had. Everybody's taking pictures. Everybody's happy, and it's just a really good time.
The 31 Yoshino cherry trees have provided a picture-perfect location on campus for almost half a century. But you might be surprised to learn this beautiful backdrop might never have existed.
They were originally planted at the Arboretum, and then a construction project threatened to come in and wipe out the trees.
When State Route 520 was being built in the mid-60s, the construction path went right through the location where these trees were originally planted. University grounds crews worked quickly to move the trees to their new home in the quad. But there was little time to prepare for such a potentially traumatic move.
They moved them here. Nobody knew whether they were going to survive or not. This was 1964, so they were 25 years old, pretty old to be transplanting a tree. And everybody just crossed their fingers and hoped that they would survive.
Lucky for us, the trees did survive the move. The following spring, every single tree bloomed beautifully. And they've been enchanting generations of UW students and staff since then.
The trees are about 75 years old, and their typical lifespan is 60 to 100 years. So they're reaching sort of the very mature phase of their life. You can tell these trees are very old by how large their trunks are.
A couple of the trees have been lost over the decades as they naturally age and die. But UW Grounds Management has a plan in place to ensure these trees remain a treasured attraction for generations to come.
And they're being replaced by a generous gift from the 1959 class who raised $85,000 to get cuttings of these trees so we can have the genetic identical tree grown up in a nursery, and we can use those trees to replace.
And as for this scene, well, beauty is fleeting. The blossoms only stick around for 2 to 3 weeks until the delicate petals carpet the grounds of the quad, and you're left with the photographs,
Good girl.
the memories,
Okay.
and something to look forward to for next spring.
If you'd like another look at those blossoms in bloom or at any of our stories, just go to our website at uwtv.org/UW360. And that's it for this episode of UW360. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time with all news stories from the University of Washington.